Imagine 10,000 armed coal miners marching through the Appalachian Mountains, wearing red bandanas and demanding justice. That's not fiction. It happened in 1921. The Battle of Blair Mountain was the climax of years of brutal working conditions, union suppression, and violent clashes between miners and coal companies. These miners weren't just protesting, they were fighting a literal war against private militias and corrupt law enforcement. It was the largest labor uprising in US history, and almost no one talks about it today. The roots of the conflict go deep. Coal miners in West Virginia lived in company towns, paid in company scrip, and were often trapped in debt. Unionizing was met with violence. Miners were evicted, beaten, or even killed. The tipping point came after the assassination of pro-union sheriff Sid Hatfield in broad daylight. That murder enraged miners across the region, and thousands began organizing to march on Logan County, where anti-union Sheriff Don Chaffin had fortified Blair Mountain. As the miners advanced, Sheriff Don Chaffin assembled a private army of deputies, hired guns, and even planes to drop homemade bombs. Yes, actual bombs were dropped on American soil to stop union workers. The miners, many of them World War I veterans, dug trenches and returned fire with rifles. For 5 days, the hills echoed with gunfire. It was a full-scale battle with over 1 million rounds exchanged. The US government eventually sent in troops, not to help the miners but to disarm them. When federal troops arrived, the miners, many of whom had served in the military, refused to fight fellow soldiers. They laid down their arms and went home. But the aftermath was brutal. Nearly 1,000 miners were arrested, and dozens were charged with treason against the state. The union movement in West Virginia was crushed for a decade. Yet the battle left a legacy. It exposed the extreme lengths corporations would go to suppress labor, and it inspired future generations of union organizers. Today, the Battle of Blair Mountain is barely mentioned in history books, but its impact still echoes. It was a moment when working-class Americans stood up, literally with rifles, for their rights. The red bandanas they wore became a symbol of solidarity, giving rise to the term redneck. This wasn't just a labor dispute, it was a war for human dignity. Remembering Blair Mountain means remembering that justice often has to be fought for, even in the land of the free.